Condoleezza Rice decapitates Adam Shifty Schiff on The View with 3 brutal words. Former National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice and Adam Schiff, DCA, appeared on The View to talk about the Russian investigation, and Rice decapitated Schiff with 3 brutal words. Has anyone seen Adam's head? Adam Schiff, DCA, typically doesn't have a hard time proving he's the dumbest guy in the room, and a recent appearance on The View, where he went head-to-head with Condoleezza Rice, was no different. What the heck was Schiff thinking, going on a show with Rice? It didn't end well for him. After a minute of listening to Schiff spew absolute garbage out of his mouth, Rice had enough and demanded that she be heard. I'd like to go a little different direction if you don't mind, because you were at the Intelligence Committee, probably the institution that has best access to what actually happened to the Russians, Rice told Schiff. And, my view is, if the Russians did it to us the first time, shame on them. If they do it to us again, shame on us. So, what are we doing? Apart from the investigation of White House or the transition or any of that, how is the committee pursuing the issue of what the Russians actually did and how we actually stop it? Because I can imagine that Vladimir Putin is ready to go again, and we shouldn't let him do that, she added. Schiff takes the bait and starts bobbleheading about what he thinks is right. I think that's absolutely right, and indeed, all of our intelligence chiefs have said as much, that they expect the Russians to be back. Indeed, the Russians have never left, Schiff rambled. At this point in the clip, Rice looks irritated with Schiff as he continues to butcher his answer to her question. In terms of what's being done about it, I have to say, not nearly enough. The states are certainly taking action. They're hardening their elections infrastructure to make sure the Russians can't penetrate it again, can't monkey around with the vote counts, Schiff said. But, what we need, because you know how formidable the Russians are as an adversary, is a whole-of-government response. Where every cabinet secretary is working within their portfolio to establish a deterrent for the Russians. There are still bipartisan sanctions sitting on the president's desk that he refuses to implement. We need to send a clear message to Russia that any further meddling won't be tolerated, he added. Schiff also provoked Rice by dropping nasty innuendos about Trump's soon-to-be former communications director Hope Hicks, who announced her resignation this week after appearing before the House Intelligence Committee, which Schiff sits on. Schiff mumbled on for another moment before Rice got his head off. I've spent a lot of time in Washington and I know you've got a really hard job and I appreciate what you're doing for the country, but I really hope you can wrap it up, Rice said to Schiff. The country needs to get back to business, so that's my greatest hope. That this gets done, she added. Ouch. That burn is going to hurt for a while. Adam Schiff looked like a deer in the headlights as Condoleezza Rice completely destroyed his self-aggrandizing monologue. Rice seems to have a few more establishment leanings than I'd like, but for taking Schiff's head off like that, she deserves a huge round of applause. There's no way Adam Schiff could have left The View without his tail between his legs after taking that brutal bashing from Condoleezza Rice. How can Schiff possibly show his face in Congress again after this? In my opinion, he shouldn't. Schiff is an embarrassment to his constituents and our country.